You need to pick something else. You'd be stuck with a core Rubik, which might not work out with the lanes and how all of that pans out. So I don't blame them for probably not going for the Rubik yet. If they want to go for it now, I think you might be able to justify it. You could run it with James playing it. You could go with core Lesh in this case. I actually really don't mind that because you want that Lesh to be dealing that damage early on to maximize that early Chronosphere. But RNG has set themselves up to play against it quite well. They already had the Tide. They go with the AA. That just makes it much harder for the Void to work in that Chrono. If there are still heroes outside that can damage him, he's not going to be feeling that safe.
Yeah, that AA almost seemed like a deny pick from RNG because you would have loved the AA with the Void. It's just such a classic combination to have. RNG, of course, do just take it themselves, and now CDEC, it will arguably be a position 4 Leshrac as the position 3 Omni Knight will come out. It could still be the mid Leshrac, but it's starting to get very, very doubtful.
Certainly is. It's gonna be interesting to see CDEC with the Omni Knight this time around. It will break the combinations from RNG quite nicely. That Heavenly Grace is just gonna make it very hard to keep anyone pinned down. The one thing I worry about is the potential of that Chronosphere early on. This is not really showing too much damage. I guess the Omni Knight can kind of play around outside. He can cast into the void, so you can get a little bit of damage going that way, perhaps. Still not the most formidable combination coming out, but the Omni Knight's still a good pick here nonetheless. It breaks the combo out from RNG quite well. You're not going to be as bothered by all of the spells coming out from them with that Heavenly Grace. RNG, they shake it up though. They take the Wraith King in, and there's really nothing from CDEC to stop this Wraith King from being effective early on. You have good ways of clearing out his summons with the Leshrac, yes, but he should be able to get his ult off every single time unless you get your Void with a fast Diffusal. He also comes online, he pushes fast for his team. It's going to be interesting to see how exactly RNG decides to play this Wraith King. Are they going to be going for the fast Midas into Radiance, or are they going to go for a bit more of a fighting build coming out here?
I imagine the Midas to the Radiance may just be the best option. I mean, the Radiance against the Void's always going to be good anyway, right? So, I mean, you've already got the Wraith King. He's obviously going to reincarnate after the Chrono, so you can't really aim for him throughout that Chrono. But if you add the Radiance, he may not even get through the first life. But only time will tell. As each team does have one final ban out left for either side. And literally hardly in reserve time left as we are ticking down to 35 seconds. For CDEC, RNG have 1 second to spare. And they actually get rid of the SF again. So feeling like Setsu may pick it up. I suppose I could kind of see why, because you don't really have great ways of cancelling if he goes to the Yule's Requiem again. I don't know if I would have seen RNG pick that up, but it seems like CDEC may just not have any further ideas as to what they might go for. In fact, CDEC may try for the Veno again.
I don't blame them. That does give a lot more for your Void to play with. We'll see how they close out. Here they go. Ooh. Okay.
Uh-oh. RNG, that's why you banned the Broodmother last pick if you're CDEC. I mean, they did it last time. The cheese strats do come out though from RNG. A lot of push. You got the Wraith King skeletons. You got the Broodmother Spiderlings. A lot of momentum. I mean, you've still got a great Leshrac that can burst both those Spiderlings and Wraith King skeletons down. That's going to be a lot of work for this Leshrac, and he can only pick one lane to defend at a time. Naturally, well, I mean, naturally they take the Earthshaker. Kind of an obvious pick, but it may be a core Earthshaker. In fact, it is.
Like, you say it's an obvious pick, but right now the one thing with CDEC's lineup is that it doesn't feel like a cohesive draft coming out. Like, Faceless Void and Shaker can work against each other in terms of blocking that Void out. By accident, you could definitely do that. You're not building off the power of that early Chronosphere. You will be relying a lot more on XM to set up these kills. And it's a bit shaky this time around, the draft from CDEC. Granted, you take it for face value, you're like, yeah, they have the Shaker against the Raid King Brood. You're going to have massive opportunities to dunk on them. The laning phase looks a bit rough. Like, the aggression that could come out from the heroes in RNG is really high. All your heroes can pump out the damage early on. They have good amounts of control coming out. They have good amounts of damage. CDEC, they're a bit tankier this time with 123's Omni Knight. You have Leshrac being played by James once again for that early push, early aggression. You really have to buy space for Eve to be online, especially throughout that laning phase. It's not going to be easy for the Void against any of these heroes. So we'll see exactly how it unfolds. But I think RNG's draft overall comes out being on top. I think you don't have enough to shut down the Brood as it is. You have a really good power spike in the early game, and you can really just kind of take over there. You can keep Eve in check, and all you then really need to worry about is clumping up against that Shaker. But we have seen a lot of Brood players actually not be bothered by the Earthshaker at all. Like, for the most part, they micro their summons quite well anyway, away from themselves out of habit. That it might not be the biggest deciding factor here.
Certainly. I can see where you're coming from. But luckily for us, John, we're going to find out how it all pans out in this third game. Of course, loser won't necessarily be out. They'll just go down to the lower bracket. Still not where you want to be if you are either of these teams, but sometimes it's just how the cookie crumbles. And see how it all pans out now. CDEC. Was Eve on that Void going to have to really try and get that farm up ASAP. RNG not looking to give them the time to allow this Void to be what he needs to be. And that's the thing, right? If RNG play their cards right with this draft, they won't actually give time for CDEC to be online anyway. So there's really a lot of pressure on the other cores as well. Even the supports, though. Like James, he's going to have to be on defense duty a lot on this Leshrac, that's for sure.
For sure. They really need to get themselves going here, CDEC. If you see the Void, if you see Eve actually get a good timing on his farm accelerating item, whether that's a Midas or Mask of Madness, plus the Maelstrom fast, like I'd say within 15 minutes for both, I think that's a really solid time, and you can definitely build off the back of that as the Void. The one thing about Chronosphere is that it's excellent control against that Broodmother. You catch that Brood in, she's a very vulnerable target, really easy to squish that bug when she can't run away through pathing. That's one thing that CDEC can play around with, and it's easy to follow up with a slam. You just have your Shaker ready. They are running the Shaker down mid, up against Setsu. So XM is going to be playing, XM on Shaker is going to be mid. That's going to be interesting. It really is a bit of a toss-up, this mid matchup. I actually think Brood should be okay early on. You just really have to play around the spacing of your Spiderlings once you have them up.
Yeah. Well, XM's already going for the Enchant Totem Aftershock build, which is pretty standard for a mid Earthshaker. This is what's going to allow him to get rid of those Spiderlings early on and not allow Setsu to really take down that Tier 1, Tier 2 mid tower too early on. Top lane FF copying a hell of a lot of harassment from 1-2-3. In fact, he may just be dead, but James could not get that final little bit of damage out. So FF, he will be able to salve up and get back into the lane to help Monet. It's also going to be important for Monet on RNG to get his farm up. So CDEC going to be ensuring, or at the very least James is going to be trying to ensure that Monet can't just free farm this top. Going to be a little bit easier said than done though. Monet is pretty durable on the Wraith King. It's not the easiest target to take down. Bot lane, Flywin also ends up falling quite low on the tide. He's going to be in charge of trying to shut down Eve on the Void with dogfights on the Mirana. So far though, Eve is having a decent time.
We've seen dogfights before in this hero as well. He's been really effective. If he doesn't have any good lane partner, he just goes to that jungle, clears out the big creeps, takes away a lot of farm from that mid lane if they pop in and out. and builds a lot of EXP and gold for himself. So he comes back in, he has brown boots, he has an urn, and he wreaks havoc. The issue is you really don't have a good partner in that tide. You don't have good setup, you don't have too many kill ops, and that's something that CDEC is exploiting quite well. Flywin is not having the best time with his hero, and that's not very typical for most tide hunters.
It's just this Shadow Demon. Shadow Poison spam is very obnoxious to play against. Arrow from Dogfights does actually connect on the Shadow Demon, but it was pretty much a point-blank arrow. So nothing to write home about. Eve is continuing to free farm the bot lane. Blast hit 7 denies on this Void, and Dogfights is still doing a decent job of trying to get those denies off. But all props to the Shadow Demon, keeping Flywin away from this creep wave. And Flywin's only got one Tango left as well now, so either he brings out some more regen or he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, he's definitely not in the comfy spot. This is very atypical of tide hunters. He's the one being pressured out. He's up against a melee core as well. Eve should be, on paper, very easy to shut down for the Void, for the tide, but it's really not happening yet. Up top, though, Monet under a lot of pressure himself.
Yeah, but they missed the Split Earth. They could still try for FF on the AA, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Purification and First Blood will go to CDEC. 123 picks it up on the Omni. And Monet, I mean, he's pretty low on HP now. He's got no regen available either. And this is not going to be an easy lane for him to keep farming up in. Now, as I say that, he does bring a salve out on the Courier.
Yeah, it's he does have to invest here. You don't want to be losing this ground to the Omni Knight because he can just really snowball and take over. We've seen it almost like a bristleback. The timings coming out, early Vanguards or early mechs coming out, just all that sustainability for your team. It's very hard to counteract. You need to have this lane up because FF also needs that EXP. He needs to soak up to his 6 as fast as he can, although he's copying so much damage from James.
He'll salve up as well. He'll be alright. Another lane that may not really be going as RNG hoped is the mid lane where Setsu, although he is still farming very well in the Broodmother, XM has kind of shut down any kind of push attempt that Setsu may have. Because every time he builds up that spiderling army, it just really never gets to the point it needs to because XM just fishes enchant totems and clears them out with the Aftershock. So, see what Setsu does about this. Bot lane though, Eve gonna set up with Flywin and they just burst him down. The Shadow Poison stacks, I believe he had 5 or 6 of them, and it's just so easy at that point to take a hero down this early on.
There's really no farm coming in on this tide. It's costing him this lane quite dearly, but he doesn't have any good lane partners. You really have to let Dogfights just go around doing this. He can't contribute.
At least Dogfights does find a nice little trade on the support. Certainly not the trade they want, but better than nothing. Flywin, he'll return back into the bot lane on that tide. Though, you look back up top lane, FF is struggling once again. 123 picks up another kill. And while James does get low, he is going to be able to walk out of there alive. And he can always just run back to the base or even just the shrine and get back into the lane ASAP. And so far, it's a 3-1. I'd say that CDEC has won every single lane. As you can see, the top net worth boards are all 3 cores of CDEC. So RNG has so far got nothing they've wanted yet.
It's almost the same story as game number 2. It really boils down to the supports from RNG. You are looking at Dogfights, who's just basically playing a greedy pause 4, trying to get their own farm going up. So it's going to be a while until you see RNG matching that aggression. The best they can do is just try to find a farm where they can. I am surprised that Setsu isn't as farmed as you'd expect, though. It's definitely not great for a Broodmother.
All 6 stacks on Dogfights. He's gone. They'll find the trade on the Demon. XM, though, came in to help out with the Fisher, and they do clean up. It's a 4-2 now. And I mean, you'd argue it looked like a pretty even trade, but just getting Dogfights off the map for a bit is certainly going to be a bit more useful than the Shadow Demon being off the map. As, that constant presence of an arrow that could fly out is very frustrating before sitting. Although Echo XM!
What?
He just walks in like that. around the tree line where Setsu couldn't quite see him. And somehow the Echo actually reaches the Broodmother, who was quite far away.
You can't do that. You can't afford to do that as RNG. You have to invest in the resources to get your Brood online.
Chrono bot lane as well now. Diabolic Edict comes out. Flywind trying to outrun them. He's got no chances. Eve has Time Walk. The Shadow Demon will be the one to pick up the kill. That's going to make it a 6-2, but more importantly, a very early 3k net worth advantage for CDEC.
Yeah, and it's not over yet. 1-2-3 gets caught out.
Yeah, but he's an Omni Knight. Heavenly Grace, Purification, and he just walks out of there alive.
I mean, that was an arrow right to his face as well.
They're still flanking. Cold Feet will come out. They slow him down, but yeah, he's just so darn healthy.
Oh, this is not good news for RNG. They've lost so much early momentum. Now you have a Tide who's stuck at level 4, 2 levels behind that Void, who he really should have been able to take over, but without any supports to help him, you really can't expect much from that Tide in that dual lane.
It's all props to the Demon, though.
Absolutely. It's really down to Victoria maximizing his aggression with his hero, always landing those poison stacks. Very consistent work coming out from him.
And now James will just go ahead, pop the Edict, clear out the bot tier 1 tower. Eve still has no reason to leave. I mean, he's got 20 stick charges available. So he's going to stick around. He is fairly safe. Flywind still can't get any space down at this bot lane, even if he is near his tier 2 tower. You've always got to be afraid that Eve just jumps in and hopes for the best with bashes. And at this point, I think if you're Flywind, you may as well just go to the jungle.
Yeah, there's really nothing for you to get from this lane anymore. You can't contest unless it looks like they are just kind of bleeding out in the Tide to get something going for their other course. Setsu is the priority in that jungle, dipping in and out, going back to the lanes as well. I think he's definitely feeling a lot more cautious after that one death. So he's not playing as aggressively as you'd expect. He still has to play catch-up. Already has his medallion up. Still needs a lot more to really be a menace as a spider. This is no red back as of yet, Mike.
Certainly not. Setsu, he's trying. This is, I suppose, the reason why you can't afford to get Flywind in there. Just the jungle's already kind of preoccupied. Setsu will just keep up the jungle farm, but he is just so far behind considering the hero. It's so momentum based, it needs a good start. XM has Echo. Setsu, be careful with those spiderlings.
Oh man, it's just kind of scary now watching Setsu. He's in that same spot again, Mike.
XM, he knows. He's going to go for the spiderlings. Doesn't get the Fisher off first. He just holds out. Dogfights is waiting as well. He's waiting for the right opportunity. John, if I may point out, XM's almost got an Aghanim Scepter.
Yeah. His farm has been on point. Once that Ags is up, you can't stop the guy from just going in and doing that.
The top tier 1's going to go down as well. CDEC. Claim it for free. There's no defense coming out from RNG. I know why. I mean, they can't afford to because their heroes aren't online yet. But you may just lose every outer tier 1 at this rate. We're only 10 minutes in. 2 tier 1's gone. The mid tier 1 is already very low. And here comes James with the Leshrac. Pops the Edict. And that tier 1's dead. No defense.
Just like that. Really easy tower for CDEC coming out. They can't afford to defend because they are kind of posturing down bot with Monet. Get their own push going. Now the one saving grace for RNG is the fact that Monet... I mean, I say it's a saving grace, they're still severely behind these heroes, but Monet is working towards his Midas, and they might find a kill.
Well, they do. The Shadow Demon will go down. They can start applying pressure to that tier 1 tower, but look at top lane. James and Eve are pushing the tier 2 top tower. By the way, that Ags we talked about, XM's got it. 11 minutes in.
No, there's no stopping the Shaker from just making that Broodmother a liability. The thing from RNG that I am very baffled about is that there's no wards to protect the Brute. There's one down bot. That's it. The rest are aggressive in the jungle, but the Broodmother is not nearly big enough to be playing that jungle area. And CDEC has not been playing passively enough to justify those wards yet. So I am curious to see what RNG decides to do with that vision. Maybe they're just going to be sticking around at bot lane with Monet, protecting Monet instead with those wards, which makes a bit more sense. He is still rushing towards that Radiance. The timing's going to be key. If he gets it by 20, you might be able to get something done. But we have seen a lot of games where the Raid King gets it 25, 30 minutes in, just really slowed down, or they just don't have anything to follow up with, and it suddenly doesn't feel like it has the biggest impact.
Well, Moonlight Shadow bot lane, Monet. Straight on the Demon, they will find the Ice Blast. James gonna try and turn it by himself in this Leshrac. He will find FF, by the looks of it, don't know. It will be saved by the Invis, but instead they find a way better target in Monet.
Oh.
And he did not have mana for reincarnation.
Oh, that is really rough. You find one kill from your from rotating around. It's a support. You lose your Wraith King for your troubles. You've lost your tier 2 up top. Your Broodmother is still working towards her Aghanim. Is that an Ags rush? That is. So the Broodmother is still working towards that Ags, which would be nice. Considering the timing, though,
XM.
I'm not sure.
XM's got the smoke. Setsu
Oh.
knows something's awry, but he goes to farm. XM knows exactly where he is. Jumps in with the enchant. Echo committed, and he's gone. Uh-oh. I mean, you saw... The thing is, he saw the purification from 123 while 123 was smoked. He just didn't...
You can't afford it. You can't play greedy. He was playing greedy. I can get why he's really behind as a Brood. This is not where you want to be. You're 500 behind the Void. You're 2,000 behind the Shaker. And this is not a typical Brood game. This is not the farm you see from that hero. They've lost their tier 2 mid now.
We're 13 minutes in, by the way.
It's just systematic from CDEC right now.
CDEC is making it look like they're the one with the Broodmother. It's not... It just doesn't look right when you look at the drafts. And it's really all into XM on that Earthshaker, finding that farm so darn quick. And now Monet does not want to die like this. He still has Reincarnate, Wraith Fire Blast comes out, and XM will leave it. There's no rush, they still have the better late game with the Void anyway. Dogfights. Trying for an arrow.
Oh.
Barely misses on XM. They really wanted that to connect. But now on Monet, do not go there. Fisher connects, Enchant Totem. He's already lost so much HP. Here comes Flywind though. He has the Ravage, commits it immediately. Now the Ice Blast. XM cops that as well. He is still around, and now the Chrono. Eve, he found both of them. FF on the A, gonna be the first target. He's gone. He throws out a Cold Feet, but it will not matter. Monet, he'll lose his reincarnation. Arrow on Flywind will at least connect, but Eve is not giving up on this chase. And Monet's dead. There's no saving him. And look at XM. He has... They just cancel that TP. Fisher connects anyway. Enchant on the leap. He predicted the leap pathing. And James will come in. Pulse Nova. XM just punches him to death. Just domination. There's no other way to put it.
Setsu? Okay. Yeah, it's been dominant coming out from CDEC. They've been playing around quite well. The issue RNG has is that they went for this kind of build in the Wraith King with a Midas. He can't contribute. And when you lose out in your lane with a Brood, she can't contribute either. So you have two cores that can't contribute to the fights. You have a Tide who's just going in throwing Ravages to no follow-up. And it's just rough to watch. This Spider, Mike, it's really no Redback. It's more like a Huntsman. It's big, it's scary, but it's actually pretty harmless.
That's a very good reference, John. Glad to see you've been doing your Australian research.
Of course.
XM.
So I know what I'm scared of.
Monet, they missed the enchant. Remember, Monet does not have reincarnate, so if they find him, he's dead. Maelstrom now up on Eve as well. He gets it before Monet has anything on his Wraith King. So now your Void's out farming your Wraith King by about 2k. This is not the normal game you were expecting from RNG. And now top lane, well, they found the Tide. Flywind, he's got nowhere to go, and XM is hitting like a truck with that enchant.
He really is. The timing of XM's farm, of how his lane went, has set the pace for CDEC. He won way too hard. I don't think RNG expected to lose that lane as hard. Because again, there are ways for Brutes to play around that kind of lane.
Bot lane falling. Shadow Poisons are stacking up. Monet's dead. The supports are taking him out now.
Victoria has
Oh,
been on it.
Setsu, no! You have your spiralings there, Setsu!
Oh.
Enchant, he doesn't even need the echo. He'll commit it in the end. Enchant is there. Dogfights tries the arrow, and there's the
Oh,
GG. They've had
what?
enough.
Oh man, yeah, and I look, I don't blame them. 17 minutes though, but dominant performance. CDEC won out in that mid, shut down that Brood, kept it harmless. They shut down that Wraith King from having a good time. The itemization from RNG definitely didn't help on that Wraith King, but CDEC, they just ran the draft they wanted. I doubted it first because they couldn't build off that early chrono, but they just found so much in lane. They just took over the lane so much more, and RNG just couldn't find a foothold. So props to CDEC. They move on to the upper bracket finals, and RNG is going to have to go through that lower bracket.
Yeah. I mean, look, the thing was, if we look at the real cause that set up for CDEC in that game 3, you've got to give it to Victoria on the Shadow Demon. I mean,
Oh
he
yeah,
just
absolutely.
dominated the lane for the Void, and of course, XM.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that. In fact, I want to say James as well, because James just found 3 tier 1 towers just over and over again. He'd rotate to another lane, find another tower, go to the next lane. It's really hard to pinpoint an MVP in this matchup for CDEC, so we're not going to. We'll leave it up to the viewers in the chat, and you guys discuss upon yourselves. Otherwise, though, John, we do actually have our upper bracket finals, which is going to be CDEC Gaming versus Invictus Gaming. Invictus actually going 2-0 up against Newbie. And of course, that lower bracket will be Raw Never Give Up versus Newbie. Loser of that, unfortunately, is just out of the qualifier. But on this stream, we will be casting CDEC versus IG. That'll be coming up hopefully very, very soon. If there is going to be a delay, I'll update you guys in the stream as soon as I find out. Otherwise, it is MLP Dota. It's John X Fire. We'll see you guys very, very soon for that upper bracket final.